As Muslims, we constantly seek gratitude from Allah, and this gratitude reflects in our devotion and understanding. I once shared with you about the term, you remember, which refers to an umbrella term encompassing three distinct groups of people. And if you recall, the third group itself is subdivided into two, Group A and Group B. Does that ring a bell for you? It's important because even though certain individuals may be visibly believers, they might still have their faith withered on the inside, almost to the point of being dried up and neglected. Despite the outward appearance of faith, these individuals are still included in the greater picture of believers. However, when the ultimate day of judgment arrives, things take a significant shift. On that day, how we were seen by others in this world, based on labels, titles, and assumptions, will no longer hold any value. The way I perceived you and the way you saw me throughout our lives will no longer have any significance. On that day, all of the labels, assumptions, and the benefit of the doubt that we extended towards each other will disappear. Why? Because Judgment Day isn't about how we perceive one another. It's solely about how Allah sees us, directly, without any filters, biases, or social protection mechanisms that we may have relied upon in this life. When we stand before Allah on that day, we will be stripped bare of everything we once clung to. Imagine standing there, having no shields or outer layers to hide behind. In fact, Allah speaks in the Quran about the hypocrites, saying that they used their claim of Islam as a shield in this world, a shield that was meant to protect them from harm. But on Judgment Day, there will be no shields. No one will have the protection of their worldly titles. No external labels will shield anyone from the gaze of Allah, the Creator. As Allah describes the believers, we see that He doesn't simply refer to them in the verbal form of those who believed, which indicates a temporary or transient action. Instead, Allah uses the nominal form, the noun form, saying believing men and believing women. This shift in form carries a deep and powerful meaning. You see, in the Arabic language, when you use the verb form, it implies a temporary action, such as when I say, he teaches. It shows that he teaches occasionally, maybe on weekends or only during specific times. It doesn't define the person's identity. However, when I say, he is a teacher, the statement implies a permanent identity. It's not just something he does, but it describes who he is. His identity is tied to teaching. Now, when Allah refers to the believers using the noun form, He is describing their true identity. They are not merely those who believed in passing moments, but they are believers in the truest sense, those whose faith is so deep and rooted that it defines who they are at their core. Faith in Allah doesn't just fluctuate like the tides. True faith remains solid and stable within a person, despite the ups and downs that we may face in our spiritual journey. Yes, there are moments when faith may be stronger, and other times when it might feel weaker, but true believers are those who consistently nurture their faith. Like the example of a teacher. Even on the days when their teaching may not be perfect, they are still teachers, aren't they? Similarly, there are those whose faith may fluctuate, but at the heart of it, they are still believers who consistently carry a minimum level of spiritual energy. The core of faith remains within them, and this core, no matter how small, is what distinguishes them as believers. On Judgment Day, this internal consistency will be reflected outwardly. What was once hidden within will now manifest clearly before all, for Allah knows our hearts. No longer will the visible, external labels matter. Only what is truly in our hearts will matter. Allah says in the Quran, on that day, their light will be running forward in front of them and to their right. And the light that Allah speaks of here is not just a metaphor, but something real. Their light will be a result of their faith and deeds, a light that comes from their hearts and their actions. This light will not be limited or temporary. It will radiate forward from their chest, and another light will emanate from their right side, symbolizing the good deeds they performed with their hands. You may wonder, what do these lights represent? I would argue that these two lights represent two fundamental components, faith and actions. Faith is the internal conviction that drives you to act in the right way, to follow Allah's commands, to live your life in accordance with His guidance. And actions, on the other hand, are the physical manifestation of this faith. They are the good deeds that you perform, the charity you give, the prayers you offer, the promises you fulfill, the commitments you keep. As Allah repeatedly reminds us, faith and actions go hand in hand. Faith in Allah is the fuel that powers your good deeds, and your deeds, in turn, strengthen your faith. They complement each other, working in tandem to strengthen your bond with Allah. When you pray, you reinforce your faith. When you give charity, you nurture the light of your faith, making it shine even brighter. These actions do not merely count as good deeds. They are the very source of the light that will lead you on Judgment Day. There's another fascinating aspect here, the light that emanates from the right hand. In Arabic, the right hand is symbolic of goodness, integrity, and trustworthiness. When Allah speaks about good deeds being written into the book of deeds, it's the right hand that receives the book of those who lived righteous lives. This book will be handed to them on Judgment Day, and they will feel the radiance of their good deeds, deeds that are now represented as a brilliant light in front of them. As we reflect on this, we see that both faith and actions are necessary for the light of guidance to shine brightly within us. They are like two sides of the same coin, inseparable from each other. The more you strengthen one, the more the other becomes vibrant. Furthermore, the journey towards Allah's mercy and reward isn't always easy. Just as someone who embarks on a physical journey may struggle, feel weary, or experience moments of doubt, so too does the believer face trials in their spiritual journey. But just like a person who works hard at their physical fitness, they grow stronger with each challenge they face. The discomfort in exercising, whether spiritual or physical, is what ultimately leads to growth and strength. Similarly, your faith and deeds might undergo trials, but each challenge only enhances your spiritual capacity. That's why the more you use your spiritual muscles, the more you engage in prayer, charity, fasting, and good deeds, the stronger you will become in your faith. Your faith will grow, and in turn, your deeds will become more consistent and meaningful. The more you strive to be a good person, the more Allah's mercy and light will shine upon you. In addition, you need to be cautious of the pitfalls of negative actions. Just as someone who exercises but eats junk food won't make real progress, so too does someone who does good deeds while engaging in harmful behavior hinder their own spiritual growth. The key to true spiritual progress lies in maintaining purity, not only through good deeds but also by avoiding bad deeds. In other words, you must balance the use of your right hand, good deeds, with the effort to limit the use of your left hand, bad deeds. This brings us back to Judgment Day, where the lights from your faith and actions will either guide you toward paradise or leave you in darkness. But as you stand before Allah, you will realize that it's not just your deeds that matter. It's also the mercy of Allah that will complete the light that guides you through the trials of Judgment Day. You may have a little light, but it is Allah's mercy that will complete it and guide you to the final destination, paradise. Finally, think about how the light from your chest and from your right hand will accompany you on that journey. Your light will not only be a reflection of your faith, but a representation of your journey through life, with all the struggles, triumphs, and tests you have faced along the way. As you walk toward your ultimate goal, paradise, the light will shine ever brighter, fueled by your faith and actions, as Allah completes and perfects it. In conclusion, the light of faith is not something distant or intangible. It is within you right now, and it can be nurtured and expanded through the actions you take. Whether it's through prayer, charity, kindness, or fulfilling your promises, every good deed adds to the light that will guide you on Judgment Day. May we all strive to nurture this light in our hearts and in our actions so that when we stand before Allah on that day, our light will shine brightly, guiding us to His eternal mercy and reward. So, the path to growth and salvation is clear. Nurture your faith, take righteous actions, and allow Allah's mercy to complete the light that will guide you to the ultimate destination. And just like the One Islam TV app, we must constantly remind ourselves to seek the light of knowledge and guidance in every moment of our lives.